Hi guys, here's a study I did and I decided to record it. For today's video, I'll just be talking about the process I used for the study as well as my thought process. Right now, I'm just trying to get the outline of the guy in armor and I'm trying to get the proportions and at the same time make it fit inside the canvas. One of the earlier issues I had when starting studies, when I started out, was like basically zoom in on the face and like draw it all out, but it wouldn't be in the right place in the canvas and it would either be too big or too small. So now I start with this very rough outline to make sure that all the proportions are mostly right and fit in the canvas well. Try to stay zoomed out when you're doing this step. This step doesn't really matter as much. You're just trying to get the basic shapes in more or less the same place. And you don't want to waste too much time because you'll be discarding this layer anyway, because you'll be going over it with a more detailed sketch. I did, though, take way too long doing this. I started the study with the intent of posting it and it being the first YouTube video, so yeah, I think that kind of made me focus on things that didn't really matter too much and added a bit of pressure, I guess, to make sure this came out all right. Yeah, just trying to get everything in the right place and stuff. The reason why I'm flipping so frequently is to make sure that I don't get used to the image. When you're painting an image and you look at it from one view too long, you get used to it and you can't see the mistakes you've made. And this way it gives a fresh eye so I can fix the proportions and stuff as I go. And in this step, it's very important because a lot of other steps will be added on top of this. So if this step is wrong, then everything that comes after will be wrong as well. Yeah, so still doing this. Soon I'll zoom in a little bit and start doing the final sketch. From there, I'll start adding color and doing the selections. This way of doing studies is like just one of the ways you can go about it. There's a lot of different ways to start and finish studies. This is one of my preferred ways. Probably the way I started out in the beginning. It does take a bit longer sometimes because you're having to do two sketches usually, a rough one and a clean one, and that can take a bit more time. The whole idea of it is so you won't have to like adjust or change things once you're going into the rendering stage of things. But sometimes, especially for me, I spend too long on the sketch stage, and a lot of it you end up discarding because you would do the sketch and a lot of it isn't needed. You just need the placement of the shape. Like you just need the areas of the shapes and you'll be doing the rendering over it. But sometimes when I'm doing sketches like this, I'm still adding just too much detail instead of focusing and just getting out what I need. I think this was partly due to the fact that I was a bit nervous because I was recording this. I had quite a lot of issues with the face. Looking back now, I can see quite a lot of issues. I made, like with the face in general, I made the face too long, not too wide, and the helmet shape I never quite fixed. Usually when I'm doing studies, I would make the background like a medium gray or so it wouldn't be so bright. I remember when I was doing the sketch for this, it was starting to actually give me a headache because of the white of the background. Yeah, I never changed it, but I did notice I was getting a headache. As for the photo that I'm referencing while I'm doing the study, or that I'm doing the study from, I just got it on Google Images a long time ago. I tried having a look for the site or whatever that it comes from, but I couldn't find it while I did a quick look and I couldn't find it. So I don't own any rights to it or anything like that. It's just something I got off Google. And I'm just using this for study purposes anyway, so yeah, nothing commercial. The sketch stage you usually don't want to spend too long on. I ended up spending, I think, like 2 hours or something on it. Like you usually want to do it in about 45 minutes. I was just being slow, trying to get everything too precise, even when it didn't matter, like the things I was working on, and taking like a lot of breaks looking to make sure that where I was putting things was right. So a lot of hesitation, and that just adds to the time, and it's not really needed. Usually, if I'm doing a study just before like a client work or an illustration or something, I wouldn't really care about the exact placement of everything. You want to get it mostly right because like you want the shapes mostly right because when you're rendering on top of it, you want to look at how the lighting works, how the surface works, and the shadows and stuff like that. So getting it mostly right helps. Usually when you're doing a study, the purpose isn't to make a pretty picture, it's just to learn something. For this, though, it was trying to hit two birds with one stone, I think the saying is. I wanted this to be good because it was like going to be the first YouTube video, but at the same time, I was trying to learn something for my next illustration. So yeah. Also, varying your process is good. So in this instance, I'm starting with lines and I'm drawing a very tight line drawing. Sometimes you want to start with no lines, just start with shapes and yeah, start with shapes and just like kind of carve or sculpt the image out, and that way it keeps it interesting, but at the same time you don't get too used to one process. It is good to get proficient at one process, like say like painting an illustration or something like that, but you don't want to um, limit yourself too much. You want to be able to do it in many different ways. That way, you get a different outcome sometimes. Like each process will have its pros and cons. Problem with this process, especially when you're lassoing out all the shapes and stuff, is you get a lot of hard edges. So your edge quality and stuff is quite bad because everything will be hard, and it brings a lot of focus to areas you wouldn't want. There are ways to counter that, like using the smudge or blur or stuff like that, but that just wastes a lot of time as well. Also, this way of doing studies is it takes a bit longer as well because you're trying to render out everything. Well, at least for me, like when I go about a study or like a piece of like in an illustration for a client or personal, when I use this kind of process, I tend to over render everything instead of just focusing on the key elements and the focal point, which is bad, and it's a bad habit I've developed. Yeah, as you can see, the line drawing is quite tight. Like if you were trying to save time or you weren't too worried about the placement of everything, there's a lot of things you could miss out, like where the bolts are in each of the things. You could draw just the main shapes. So, like I did all the layers of metal on the hands and on the gauntlets, basically. You could have missed out most of that. And when you went into the rendering stage, you could have added it in then. Yeah, usually that works just fine, and it saves you a lot of time because you spend a lot less time on the sketch. When I'm doing like personal studies or just like studies for fun, or if I have a break or I want to relax or something and just do a study, um, I would usually give myself about 3 hours in total. So um, I wouldn't want to spend all day doing a study. Like this took about 12 hours, so as you can see, that's ridiculously long. It's pretty much almost as long as a final illustration, and you can finish an illustration in way less. You can do quicker, like speed paints or whatever crap, in 5 hours. So in terms of length, this was very long and not needed. Like yeah, if this was just gonna be for like nothing. Also with studies and stuff, you want to focus on like less is more usually when you working on a client piece and stuff like that. And there's something you don't understand, say like a surface material or the lighting or the natural colors of the objects, like the color without light, their actual colors or anything like that, you would do a study and just focus on that. So say if I was doing this study and I needed texture for metal, like how to quickly render texture with metal and which brushes I should be using, I would I might draw the whole character out, but I would just block in all the other colors and then I would just focus on the metal. So I would focus on like the helmet or the gauntlets or something like that, and I would render that out until I feel I have the hang of it or I understand it better, and then I would go back to the image. And that way, because you're keeping it in small bites, you're actually learning a lot more and retaining a lot more information. And because you're using it straight after, it sits in your brain a lot more like solid, kind of. Like this way is like just basically trying to paint a pretty picture out of a study. I would have learnt a lot more if I would have, yeah, just focused on something and carried on with the personal piece or the illustration that I'll be doing after this. And if you spend all day in a study, you can't really apply it in the same day, and that's when everything is fresh. So yeah, there's a lot of things that people probably shouldn't take from this. Here I'm just blocking in the background. I want to make sure that the values I start adding on the character are like the right values or as close to as possible. And blocking in the background before you start the character will make sure that will help in you getting the values and stuff as close as you can. The colors, meaning the hue and value, will depend on the colors around it. So it's all about the relationship between the colors, which will tell if something's light or dark, as well as the saturation. Here I'm just blurring it out because in the reference it's quite blurred. And here I'm using the lasso tool. It would have been better to use the pen tool, have a bit more control. I'm just used to using the lasso, so I don't know, maybe that's a mixture of being lazy and like bad habits. So it's also an issue with when you're painting and stuff, you always need to watch out for bad habits. It's very easy to make a lot of bad habits and then they're really hard to break. Just a bit of advice for anyone starting out. This is sped up, I think 10 times, like the speed, so it's a lot faster. It kind of looks kind of ridiculous with my brush like squiggling all over the place. I didn't realize I did that while I painted. See, so this would have been a lot easier with the pen tool because there's curves. And yeah, it's just stuff like this is where you see like, yeah, bad habits, I guess. Since I spent so long on the sketch, like there are issues with it, but I don't want to waste I don't want to waste all the effort I put into the sketch. Like, so I do see more problems, but in the spirit of not wasting time, I decided to just use the actual lines of the sketch and yeah, and just keep going. Like, this wasn't supposed to be perfect anyway. Here I'm just like blocking out areas and making new layers, and then I'll lock the transparency or whatever it's called. So anything I paint, like when I'm on that layer, it'll only paint in what's selected, and that way it makes it easier to paint underneath it and on top, and you don't have to worry about edges and stuff like that. Yeah, I just full screened it to give me a bit more space. Also, usually when I'm doing a study, I have the image on one of my other screens. That way, I have the full screen to work with. Oh, here I'm using the pen tool because I think I tried a few times with the lasso and it didn't work. So, pen tool away. It's just really a balance of not wasting time, too much time dawdling with certain areas, but still trying to get it as accurate as possible. And really timing steps is also helpful. When I'm doing a study and I feel that I'll get stuck on certain areas or something like that, I'll usually put a timer on, be like, oh, okay, 15 minutes for the sketch, 20 minutes for the selections, and like 2 hours or something for the rendering. And that way it keeps you from spending too long on things that don't matter. Here I'm trying to get the basic colors. I had a bit of like issues. I usually go towards blue straight away because of the sky, but I was finding out that in the armor, well, from what I saw, like this could be all wrong, but what I was seeing that it was more in the reds. Like so, I started changing the cooler tones for a more like pinky kind of color. Very technical terms, yeah. See, also with this, to save time, I could have made sure that I got the colors down and instead of moving on to the other armor pieces, I could have got that mostly done looking good and all the colors really figured out, and then I could have just color picked from that piece and moved on to the other pieces. But what you'll see as I do here is I added the colors, I sort of figured them out, and then I started going all around because I felt like this was taking too long. So I wanted to start working on the whole piece. But like if I would have spent a little bit more time on the helmet, it would have helped me a lot more and I would have saved a lot more time there. Also, I go over the same pieces of armor a lot. A better way to have done it was to work on a piece, get it mostly looking good, and then just move on and don't waste time like going over the same piece like multiple times, just sort of wasting time. So there's a lot of ways to save time. It's putting the right colors in the right areas the first time round and not like the third time round, or like just washing paint and like smudging it all around until you get the right colors. It's I started seeing that was what I was doing with the other pieces. So I got a little better at it with the gauntlets and stuff, blocking in the main shapes, trying to get the right colors, and yeah, trying to get it mostly finished. I think it was the gauntlets or something. Maybe I'm wrong. See now, also if I was trying to get the basic lighting or something like this for this image, I would paint it a little better than what I've done with these on piece and then leave it. I wouldn't detail it anymore. If this was for something like something I wasn't gonna post or something like that. I tend to when I'm trying to post stuff, I don't know. You get self-conscious and you don't want to post rubbish, so you work on things a lot more and waste time. That's what I find. I feel a lot better doing studies and just not posting it because there's not that thing at the back of your head saying, "Oh, this has got to look good, or you're gonna look like a fool." Here I'm just working on the face. The colors are very saturated, kind of off, like looking at it now. But I was just trying to block in like the main forms or whatever. And like that again, that would have been good if I was just trying to do this quickly and move back to like my actual illustrations or whatever the client work or the personal work, which is actually more important than a study. Like the study is just to learn, not to do pretty pictures. It's just for learning. You want your pretty pictures to be the work you're posting and stuff like that. You don't want to waste all your time doing studies, which is basically what I did. So yeah, it's starting to come together. Usually, yeah, usually I'd want this kind of stage to be like after 2 hours about, or maybe less, like an hour and a half. I would want to be mainly blocked in like this. But yeah, I was taking it really slow. So yeah, I don't even know when this was. This was like 4 hours or something crazy like that. When I first started doing studies and stuff, pretty much every study I did was like 10 hours or like even more. Some studies I did took like a whole week, and I wasn't really learning. I was just so concerned about making it look exactly like the image, but I wasn't focusing on the right things. I was focusing on that rather than learning surface materials and how to how to paint textures and stuff with the brushes I was using, how to illustrate texture in the fastest way possible, and like instead of like those are the things I should have focused on, not trying to make the, the picture, my study as close to the image as possible. Yeah, it was just a lot more effort and not learning the right things, and yeah. Yeah, I'm still just getting the colors or what I think are the colors. I'm starting to work on, yeah, okay. No, I'm still trying to block in everything, the wrinkles and stuff. I'm really bad when it comes to clothing and stuff with folds. So usually when I do studies and stuff, I try to focus on it. But I tend to make the midtones too light and the highlights too light or the wrong hue, and it always makes my clothing look all weird. And it's a good thing to spot to know what you're bad at and then do studies or focus or observational studies or whatever and focus on those things until you start getting a better grasp of it and then moving, always trying to focus on your weakest points so you develop. You never want to be like, oh, I'm good at doing armor or oh, I'm good at something and just stick with that because it's easy. Here I'm kind of just blocking in the belts and buckles and stuff on the whole piece. I don't know if this is like the best way to do it or is it better to just, as I'm rendering everything, render each piece as I go. I don't know. This is just what I do. At this point, I remember I was just looking at the thumbnail, like on the navigator in the top right, and I was like, oh, it looks pretty much done. But yeah, when you looking at your navigator and stuff, and it looks good. You know that your values and stuff are reading properly, and that's a good thing. You should either zoom out or I like to keep the navigator in the corner just to look, especially with more with personal work or client work and stuff like that. With the study, you're just basically all the information is there. You're just trying to process it in a way that and break it down in a way that you can understand it and use the information. But yeah, when you're doing personal work, there is nothing there. It's just you're creating something from scratch or like your imagination or something like that. And yeah, that's when making sure that your values and things are reading in your navigator. Here I'm still, yeah, just blocking everything in and trying to get the right colors. Starting to render a little bit the belts and straps and stuff that I selected before, trying to get the right value because I chose a very light value to make sure that I was getting like the right area, but now they stand out too much. So I'm adding what I think the colors are, the values in color and whatever in the image to so it blends in more so the piece starts looking a little more done. Yeah, I think about here it was the 4 hour mark and yeah, I think I'm not sure. Maybe the 5 hour, 6 hour mark. I'm painting a strap or something at the moment. Oh, I moved on already. Wow. Sometimes it is good to turn the line drawing on and off or drop the opacity as low as you can because the line drawing is adding a lot of dark lines everywhere that you wouldn't really see in the final product, and it kind of distort your like, perception of the image sometimes. Like sometimes you think a dark line is where it's supposed to be, but it's actually a line from your sketch that you're gonna get rid of anyway. So usually if I'm gonna try discard I think discard the line drawing soon, or like turn it off, and you'll see I'll turn it on every once in a while, or I leave like I'll turn it off and then turn it on, turn it off to just make sure the image isn't lacking in some places drastically, and making sure that where it needs little shadows and stuff that I'm actually adding them instead of forgetting about it because the line drawing's there. Another way to I could have sped this up is blocked in all the values and then added a little bit of texture. Done. Yeah. So all values, a little bit of texture brush, and done. Instead of going in and here I'm using the mixer brush. I really like using the mixer brush if I'm doing like if you need to soften things. So like doing skin, because skin has a lot of hard and soft edges. It's mostly soft, like most everything's soft, but some of the when I'm painting skin and I find it easier to use a hard brush to get in all the values and all the planes, like the planes of the surface of the face, and then use the mixer brush and just soften the edges. It gets a better effect than using a soft brush the whole time. It just looks really muddy if you use a brush that's too soft. Well, for me anyway. So here I'm just softening everything, all the metal, blending it a bit. Some place I blend too much and then I have to come in later, and you're that's when things start taking very long, is when you're working over work the whole time. Like instead of painting one area once, you're painting it like 3 times basically. Just adding shadows and trying to get the colors more or less right. Well, trying. In terms of like subjects or like to studying stuff, I usually do like painting armor. I had like a phase like a year ago or 2 years ago where I was just studying armor for like ages, and I think I got quite good at it. Well, not good. I got proficient at it for a bit, but over time you forget things. Like forget, for example, you forget what brushes you use to illustrate a texture quickly, or you forgot how to do the edges. It's just like simple stuff like that. Or you forgot the design, like how gauntlets would fold, how the metal would fold and stuff like that. And that's why it's always good to go back. Also, one thing I found with studying that I really like doing is instead of doing once, like if you're gonna say do faces, like instead of doing it one day and then moving on to something the next day, if I was doing studies and it wasn't for a client piece or something like that, I would do say like instead of doing one face and then moving on, like I said, you would do for that whole week, you just do one face each day, and then after that, you try see what you can remember, if you have a lot of time, if you took like a week off or you're in between jobs or something, a nice thing to do is to like look at the face and then just like look at it for like 5, 6 minutes and then close the image and try duplicate it from your memory and just spend as long as you can trying to push it as far as you can and then opening the image afterwards and seeing where you're getting it wrong, like where your brain's kind of lying to you. And it makes you a lot more aware of issues you're having. And then you do the study and you make it like 3 hours or something like that. You don't you put a time limit on it. You don't want to do like this where you spend all day on it. And then when you're finished, the 3 hours are up and you've done as much as you can, and then you close it again and you try duplicate it from memory. So you're doing it 3 times. Like that does sound a bit excessive, but you learn a lot more and it stays with you a lot longer. Instead of staying with you for like a few days afterwards and stuff like that, like the face and the lighting and stuff and the textures or whatever like that, it'll stay with you for like a week and you get a better understanding of everything you're doing. Yeah, I'm smudging again. Realized I didn't smudge everything enough. And, well, I didn't smudge anything on the gauntlet. See, again, I'm smudging it too much. I noticed that later and I'm like, okay, I need to go over it again. Hmm. I think here, yeah, here is where I basically go all over all the armor again to finish it. It's a huge time sink. And when I start realizing that this image is taking really long and it gets to the point where I'm doing the buckles and stuff at the end, I'm just trying to get the values down and I'm not really doing the right sharpness or like edge quality that I'm supposed to. And I'm just moving on as fast as possible because I just want to get this out. Ah, I wish I could paint this fast. Like in the image, in the video. The only real way to get faster and stuff like that is not really like squiggle your brush everywhere. It's basically think more before you add a brushstroke or whatever like that. Don't go over the same places all the time. Be more economical. That's going to speed you up a lot faster than trying to make sure your hand goes like super crazy. So yeah, the gauntlet's starting to look like something. See, I'm turning the line drawing on and off to see where each plate is beginning and ending, and turning it off to see what it looks like. Adding a bit of texture, like a bit of dirt or whatever, grime on it. The armor that the guy is wearing is really cool. Like it's very weathered. It's got a bit of rust. It's got a bit of dirt. It's got a bit of whatever it is. It's a very cool photo that I managed to find on the internet. Um, yeah, like really great reference. Whoever took it and whoever was wearing the armor, it was really cool. Now, if anyone knows or whatever, just tell me and I'll put it in the description box. I'll link their website or whatever. Yeah, I'm trying to make the armor look like armor. It's very easy once you have everything once you have everything lassoed out and put on a separate layer. It's very easy just to move around the canvas and you don't have to worry about edges or anything like that. And you can just go into the move tool, I think it is. It's V on Photoshop. I think it's V. I use hotkeys nowadays, so I can't remember what the actual keys were on the keyboard, but it's V. You press V and then you right click and it brings up like wherever you've right clicked, it brings up every layer that's basically underneath your cursor, and you usually just click on the top one and that'll bring you to whatever layer. And that's how I'm moving around the canvas. I just do that all the time. There is a faster way where you, I think you right click but you hold down control or something when you're in the move tool and it'll automatically take you there without bringing up the window with all the layers. I saw that in a Wick Brackner, I think that's how you say his name, video. He was doing it. It was pretty cool, but I forgot it, and that's why I pretty much don't use it. I'm too lazy to go look. Like hotkeys and shortcuts or whatever when you're painting, just to speed things up. Like say if you're flipping like I'm flipping my canvas the whole time, and I just yeah I have that on a hotkey instead of where you have to click into image and then you go flip horizontal or whatever like that. That wastes a lot of time. And if you have a hotkey, just pressing a button, you're saving time there. And then you're saving time with the move tool instead of looking for the layer on the layers. You're using like that thing that I just explained there, saving a little bit of time. And you get some people that they use pretty much everything as hotkeys. It's just your preference. Sure, yeah, it does save time and stuff like that, but yeah, it's all on your preference, like how much you want to use and how comfortable you are with how many hotkeys. Like some people feel that using too many hotkeys and stuff like they feel it's not needed, or they feel that like it makes them too dependent on their like their Nostromo that they're using or whatever they're using to use their hotkeys. They want to be able to go anywhere and be able to paint normal. Go if you're going to a lecture or something, and so you don't need your hotkeys. If I were to, if someone else that uses a lot of hotkeys, you would have to bring your stuff basically anywhere you went um, in order to paint, rather than just being used to everything that it normally comes with on Photoshop and then being able to go anywhere basically. But yeah, that's all preference and that's stuff you develop as you go. I'm a little bit in the middle, like some things I would do. Like I like zooming out, in and out using the navigation thing. That wastes a lot of time. Um, and there are a lot faster ways to do it, but I don't know. I like it because I don't know, it's like a breather for me. I don't know how to explain that. Yeah, so I'm just adding texture and trying to trying to make it match more or less what the reference is, which you can see it's more on the less part than the more. Um, but yeah, you don't want to spend all day on stuff, but you want to get the gist of it. Like it needs to look kind of alright. And usually if you're doing a study or whatever, you're not showing the photo as well, so people can't just compare. Yeah, okay, I finally went back to the helmet and started fixing the lighting and stuff on it. Even though I did take a long time on this, way longer than you would normally want to. It was still fun though. You need to enjoy what you're doing as well. The actual act of painting I find quite enjoyable. Here, you saw just before that. Yeah, I selected the line layer and then I started painting on that, and yeah, it messes it up, and then I had to undo. I think after this I go into the face and try and make it look kind of like a face. When doing helmets from imagination and stuff, I always tend to get them wrong. There must be something about the form, like, or something, like the way they're built. I always seem to like fudge it up. I always have to like look at reference or something. I'll also have when I paint a helmet on a head, I always have a tendency of making the head too small because there's a head and then a helmet, so it makes it bigger. But when I add a helmet to a head, I usually make it the same size as the head, but so then the head is really small inside this helmet that's the normal size of a head. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I thought it's funny while I'm looking at this. And like if you can look in the reference, yeah, I didn't really get the shape of the head right. There's like more of a top piece on in the reference. I was a bit nervous. Well, I was very nervous in the beginning of the audio. So yeah, that sounded it's like stuttery and stuff. I feel a bit better now. The whole time painting this image, I don't know why, but not the whole time, but like when it got into 4 hours, it started lagging like really bad. Like all my strokes started lagging quite bad, and yeah, it was kind of annoying, but I was 4 hours in, so I just wanted to finish, and I tried like just restarting my computer and stuff, and like stopping the video for a few seconds, and yeah, I never managed. Yeah, I never managed to finish it. Like I fixed it. It just kept lagging all the time. There would be a delay with every brushstroke. So probably before I do another video like this, I'm probably going to maybe get more RAM if that's the issue, or see what was wrong. Because I also closed everything and didn't seem to help. Here you see I'm starting to add the values and stuff to the face, trying to make it look like a face. And you can see I kind of made him look like a bulldog, kind of. Like I sagged his lips way too much. Like sagged his cheeks, I mean. So I noticed that at the time when I was painting it, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna fix it because, yeah, I screwed up with the sketch. I'm just gonna go with it. Overall, I made him, the dude, a lot fatter. I don't know why. Like I made like his arms like wider and stuff. Yeah, just bad sketching, I guess. That's also like terrible sometimes. If you're too hesitant or you're stuff like I started this basically the moment I woke up in the morning, and it was supposed to be just a little quick study thing that I was going to do and record, and then it ended up taking all day. But you're painting on like a stiff sketch and stuff like that, and yeah, it sometimes shows because you do really weird mistakes everywhere, and if you screw up the sketch stage, from that point on, you're basically painting on a turd. There's nothing you can do because the fundamental image from the ground level, you've messed up, and everything on is added on top of that, basically. Especially if you're not going in and fixing. And if you are, going in and fixing as you're painting on top of it, you wasted so much time with the sketch, firstly, and then now you're wasting so much time fixing the sketch. So, yeah, it's always better to maybe do a few warm-ups or something like that. Or if you're not really worried about proportions, just do it as quick. Just do it fast. I find sometimes when you're hesitant and stuff like that, if you're nervous and stuff, it doesn't help the image at all, and it hurts it quite bad because you're stiff, you do mistakes, and you take a long time. So yeah, it's always good to loosen up and make sure everything you do has a purpose and you stick to it. Yeah. This is getting kind of close, I guess, to finish. It's probably another 2 hours before I finish this, but in like the whole length of the image, it's the last 20% basically. Just detailing and useless stuff right now. The brushes I'm using are just, it's mainly Harness's brushes, mixed with like a few brushes I've made and like a few brushes from some other artists. Mainly brushes from other artists, but the core amount I use pretty much 80% of the Harness's brushes. In my own kind of way, I'm pretty sure he uses them better since he made them. But I get enough use out of them. So when I first started painting, I I would download tons of brush packs. Early on, I realized that it's not the brush that you need the knowledge, and that's actually how you finish him. Like the brushes don't matter so much; it's the knowledge and the not. There's no point in having like 100 brushes or something like that. It's not going to make you any better if you don't know how to use any of those brushes. So what I started doing was going through all the brushes and seeing which ones I could use, which ones didn't make sense to me, and just deleting some and consolidating all the brushes. So I didn't have so many. Here I'm trying to make like a quick chainmail thing. I'm not focusing on the chain. I'm like looking at the reference, but I'm trying to make the negative of the chainmail, the 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 black parts of the chainmail. I don't know, the shadow or whatever. I was trying to make it just quickly and then like just as a quick texture thing, but I fudged it up. It was all wrong, and I noticed as I did the first few strokes, I'm like, yep, this doesn't work. But yeah, I just wanted to get this done at this point, so I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna do it and fudge, like just muck around with it, and make it look kind of okay. So yeah, before I started saying that, I forgot what I was saying before. Yeah, I probably would have had a better go using the brush I just used now. It's one of Alex Negria's brushes um, that he gave me. Uh, I don't think it's used for chainmail, but I think it would have looked a bit better than I used just now. Like, if I would have just altered it a bit. Here I'm trying to make it look like it's actually pinned to the belt without actually having to go in and do anything. Notice like I'm going in and here I'm just there's too many total black areas, so I'm just trying to add a little bit of like light bounce light or whatever that's going in there, and yeah, and just fixing the belts and just overall rendering. It's not really much to explain. Just trying to get the texture using mixture of brushes, trying to do as quick as possible with as least amount of brush strokes. Sometimes don't work. Like that's really what you want. You want to get things done as quick as possible with the least amount of brush strokes. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. It's just yeah. And stuff like that really just comes with time and practice as you do studies or as you do personal work, as you develop as an artist, you'll you'll start noticing what you're doing wrong, and then you'll try to figure out ways to fix it, and you might make more mistakes, but it's all just development and growth, and you get better as long as you're focusing on your weaknesses and you, you're striving to get better the whole time. You're gonna get better. Here I noticed the values and everything I did on the belt were wrong. It was too saturated and too much leading to the yellow. It needed to be a little more red and a little less saturated. But yeah, I noticed it, but I was like, oh, I'm just gonna leave it. Just try paint, like make it look kind of like a belt. I should have also made maybe used the sharpen brush and sharpened some of the edges or the rims, or just used a sharper brush. But at this point, I just wanted to get this done. And I seem to always get to a point where I know I've spent too long on something, but I've spent so long on it that I'm like, oh, I might as well spend a little more time on it. And it's like a weird, I don't know, like quicksand that I seem to get myself into all the time, especially when I'm doing stuff like this. I only wanted it to be 4 hours max, but I'm like, oh, I've already spent 4 hours. I might as well keep going. Like, I've already messed up. I might as well keep going. I think if I would have maybe done a quick like imagination sketch or something like that, just warmed up a bit before jumping into this in the beginning, it would have been a lot faster because I would have been more awake, my arm would have been more warmed up or relaxed or whatever it is. Yep. So yeah, just moving around, trying to get the values kind of like what it is in the reference or in the photo or whatever, but not trying to spend too long on it. Just trying to get it down and move on. And even if I screwed up the edges or the colors aren't really right, just move on because I want it to look kind of painted on, but like not waste too much time getting it extremely accurate. coming up, I'm gonna start adding all the bolts that bolt all the metal together and that bolt the straps on and stuff like that. I put that all on one layer as well. Just makes it easier. Yeah, just zooming out, trying to look at the image, seeing what stands out as like totally crap, and try and make it less crap. Focus on the small things like I'm doing, just focusing. And yeah, I think I kind of forgot about the weapon a little bit, just trying to work on everything else. But I'll come back to the weapon soon enough. I think here is around about 11 hours already. It's super long, like a whole day basically. And then you have to edit it and all that stuff. It's a lot of effort posting a video online. See here, I made a new layer. I paint bucketed like the whole thing white, and then you drop the transparency so you can see your line drawing a bit easier. So I can get all the little bolts and stuff. Usually do that when, yeah, basically when you need to see the line drawing better. I kind of actually liked it, how it looked now with all the colors washed out. So like if you take the line drawing off and you just have it like that. I don't know why. It doesn't look right at all, but I seem to like it. Yep, and now I'm painting each little bolt. Oh my God. It might have been easier to paint one rivet like on the top and then just copy and move it down like wherever it would be. It would probably mean faster than this. But I didn't want the lighting, the little light specular on each of them to be like all in the same direction because that wouldn't work. Well, it wouldn't have really mattered. I don't know. That's what I was thinking at the time. So this image is pretty much coming to a finish. So much time on a study that means nothing. See, finally, see, I get back to the weapon. And I spend as little time as possible trying to get this down. At this point, I was like, oh my God. Like when I realized the weapon, like, oh my God, I need to paint this. I just want to get this done. I guess it's good practice to push a thing to final. You can learn from everything you do. Like I'm saying a lot of things like, oh, I shouldn't have done this, I should have done that. While I was painting it, I was realizing those things. So for next time, you just need to remember and just get better. You can't always do things perfect or whatever. You can never do anything perfect, but you can always try get better. Just focus on that is pretty much what I always focus. So even if something turns out rubbish in the end, I still I'm still happy because you're getting better, you're learning, you're You're developing. And that's pretty much the best part about all this. It's just the progress and that kind of stuff. I probably could have spent like another day rendering all this, like getting it really tight. But there's no point at all for that. Like if this was um, a personal piece or something like that, then I would maybe be like, yeah, I'll spend an extra day, give it some extra love. But I don't know. I don't know if that's good. It's probably bad because detailing everything basically makes the whole image, I don't know, like flat almost. I have a big issue with rendering everything, and that's probably stems from me doing studies like this, like from the beginning, um, have tendency to, yeah, it has to be rendered. Making it rendered is gonna make it better or something. I don't know. I am doing like studies and stuff on the side, other than this image, but trying to focus on just focusing on the main areas and getting everything else down, getting just the shape, the edges, and the values right, and then it looks pretty much all right, and then you render like just the face, something like that. And that's something I need to work on more, so I can just focus on the focal points instead of like just rendering everything like this. It does actually make a better image in the end, even though, like, yeah, and it's faster because you're just rendering the face, or the face and the hands, or the face and the focal point. If there's something else that's more important than the face, so like the person's got like an animal or something, so your face and then like the animal's face, something like that. It's all balance, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty much done now. I just merged all the layers, made a new layer, and then I'm just blurring it. And then I'm going to go in and blur like a few little things just to make me feel better that like not all the edges are hard. Yeah, thanks for watching.